"You got me wet," Kale said, the words muffled by the thin film of brackish liquid coating his faceplate. It was just water, or mostly water, maybe coolant, maybe something worse, but it felt deeply insulting. "Out here, on Rig 7, seriously." A shape shifted in the gloom ahead, a splash of impossible light against the rusted metal bulkheads. Not just a light, a pattern of pulsing, shifting bioluminescence, alien and utterly captivating even through the grime on his visor. It wasn't supposed to be here. Rig 7 was supposed to be empty, salvaged clean years ago. A ghost station. He'd been poking into a flooded auxiliary conduit, hopping for some forgotten tech, when the section had ruptured. Or rather, when she had ruptured it. It was a defensive measure, a voice resonated, not just in his ears but seemed to vibrate deep in his bones. It was low, melodic, carrying an undertone of something like irritation mixed with amusement. He couldn't place it. He wiped his visor again, peering through the watery haze. The light coalesced into a form, vaguely bipedal, but with a grace of movement that spoke of environments far more fluid than this decaying metal tomb. He saw the flow of light across what might be limbs, across a central mass, intricate patterns blossoming and fatting like living constellations. No clear face, just an intensity of luminous presence. "Defensive, you flooded half a quadrant," Kale countered, trying to regain his footing on the slippery deck plating. His boots squelched. "My suit seal held, thankfully, but my scanner's fried. My comms are fritzing." He gestured vaguely at his helmet, the gesture feeling absurd. "I'm floating in your defensive measure, Commander, whatever you are." He added Commander because the presence felt inherently authoritative, and maybe a little bit dangerous. The light patterns shifted, a rapid, complex display that Kale suspected was her equivalent of a sigh or maybe a curse. "You intruded," the resonant voice stated simply. "You were attempting to access restricted areas, areas under my protection." "Restricted? By who? This place is a graveyard," Kale scoffed, pushing off a bulkhead to keep from drifting further into the rising water. The glow intensified slightly, focusing on him. He felt a faint pressure against his suit, not physical contact, but a weird sort of resonance, like being in a room with an active sub-bass that was just below the threshold of hearing. "By the Cathar," she said, the name sounding like water over stones. "My species, what remains of us here?" The glow around her flickered with what felt like deep weariness. "And you, human, have compromised our sanctuary. You have violated our privacy. You have, as you say, got me wet." Kale blinked inside his helmet. The last part was delivered with a strange emphasis, almost a challenge. "Okay, sure, point taken. Sorry about your sanctuary shower." He edged along the bulkhead, looking for a way out. The water level was still rising, slowly but surely. "Look, my rig's just outside. I can clear out, leave you to your flooded ship party. No harm, no foul." "Harm has been done," she said, and the resonant frequency shifted, becoming sharper, more demanding. It made his teeth ache slightly. "You have seen what you were not meant to see. You have disturbed stillness that was essential." She drifted closer, and the light patterns pulsed, creating a dizzying effect. He could feel the pressure increase, the strange resonance pushing against his suit, seeking purchase. "And you have invoked a specific state of being in my presence. In my culture, such an action carries obligations." "Obligations," Kale repeated, wary. This was going from a salvage mishap to something decidedly weirder. "What kind of obligations? Look, I don't have much. Maybe a spare power cell, a few rations." He didn't mention the data slate he'd found earlier, encoded in a language he didn't recognize. Probably useless, but salvage was salvage. "Not of possessions," she resonated, and now the quality of the sound shifted again, taking on a strange, deep warmth that somehow felt intimate. The glow intensified, swirling in complex new patterns that drew his eye irresistibly. He found himself holding his breath. "Of connection. You have intruded upon my stillness, forced a reactive state, and made yourself known to me in a fundamental way. In the Cathar way, this signifies a bond, a significant one." She paused, the resonant tone lingering in the water-filled space. "You got me wet, now take responsibility." The water level kept inching up the bulkheads. Kale watched the alien's light patterns shift, feeling the strange resonance vibrate through him. Responsibility. Bond. Wet. This was definitely not how he'd expected his day of scavenging to go. He was trapped in a flooded section of a derelict station with a powerful, luminous alien who apparently considered their inconvenient encounter some kind of sacred union. His fingers tightened on the multi-tool clipped to his belt. The external pressure from the rising water and the alien's strange resonance was starting to feel equally inescapable. Responsibility, he finally managed, his voice a bit strained. What does taking responsibility even mean in this context? Alien drifted closer still, the patterns of light flowing like liquid over her form. He still couldn't make out distinct features, but the sheer presence of her, the shifting glow and the pervasive resonance was overwhelming his senses. He could smell something faintly metallic and clean, even through his suit filters, mingling with the scent of stale water and rust. "It means you are now tethered," she resonated. The word felt less like a statement and more like a physical anchor dropping inside him. "To me, to my circumstance, to the protection I require." The light pattern shifted again, displaying a complex, rapid sequence that felt intensely emotional, though he had no lexicon for it. It pulsed with urgency and something else, something that felt like deep sorrow or fear quickly masked. "You have disturbed the deep calm. You have drawn unwanted attention with your intrusion. And by forcing this interaction, you have marked yourself as connected to the Cathar presence here." "Whoa, hold on," Kale said, trying to back up, but the bulkhead was right behind him. "Marked myself? Unwanted attention. I'm just a scavenger. I didn't force anything. The pipe burst." "The pipe burst because my shielding resonance reacted to your unannounced breach," she corrected, her voice a low thrum. "You were attempting to penetrate a shielded area. My shield reacted instinctively. The water is secondary. The primary event was your intrusion into my defended space." The light patterns flowed faster, brighter, around what he now perceived as her head or upper body. There was a sharp, almost painful edge to the resonant frequency now. "You are loud in the stillness, Kale. Your presence is a disruption." He flinched slightly. "How do you know my name?" "Your suit transponder, though shielded, transmits a weak signal. Your designation is clear." The glow pulsed, a rhythm that felt curious, assessing. "You are designated Kale. Is this designation accurate?" "Yeah, it's accurate," he confirmed, still trying to process everything. She knew his name. She called him loud in the stillness. She thought he was bonded to her because he got splashed. This was completely insane. "Look, Lyra," he stopped. He didn't know her name, he just called her Lyra. "Why?" "My designation is Lyra," she resonated, confirming his unbidden thought. The light patterns around her body rippled, and for a fleeting moment he saw a stronger, more defined structure within the glow, something elegant and powerful. The resonant frequency warmed again, that strange, deep, intimate tone returning. "You spoke my designation. Another bond marker. Your intrusion was fated." "Faded?" Kale snorted. "It was a leaky pipe and bad timing." He pushed off the bulkhead again, desperate for some space, some control. The water was getting deeper, swirling around his thighs. "Listen, Commander Lyra, I appreciate the cultural exchange, but I need to get back to my rig. My air supply isn't infinite, and frankly, this whole situation is stressing me out." Lyra drifted closer still, until the leading edge of her glowing form was only inches from his helmet. The resonance intensified, filling his head, his chest. He could feel it in his teeth, his bones, a deep hum that seemed to vibrate through the very fabric of his suit. The light patterns flowed across her, intricate, mesmerizing, pulsing in complex rhythms that felt like words he couldn't understand, emotions laid bare. He felt a wave of something wash over him, a strange mix of powerful protective instinct, profound loss, and an unnerving, intense curiosity focused entirely on him. It wasn't just pheromones, it was deeper, a sensory input his human biology wasn't equipped to process fully but which resonated nonetheless. "You cannot leave," she stated, the resonant tone firm, absolute. "Not now. You have disturbed the veil. You have attracted attention where there was none. My kin are hidden here. Your ship's signature will be tracked, your escape route compromised." The light patterns around her head area pulsed with urgency, the warmth replaced by a sharp, cold frequency that spoke of danger. You are a liability, Kale, or you are an asset. The choice is yours. Kale stared at the shifting light that was Lyra, feeling the powerful, confusing wash of alien sensation that pulsed from her. Liability or asset. Get wet, take responsibility. She was demanding, commanding, utterly alien and somehow compelling. His rational mind screamed to find another way out, to jettison everything and make a run for it. But the deep resonance, the mesmerizing glow, and the raw intensity of her presence held him captive. He was a scavenger, a survivor, used to navigating risks and trusting his instincts. Right now, his instincts were a tangled mess of fear, confusion, and a strange, undeniable pull towards the glowing being in front of him. He swallowed, the sound loud in his helmet. "An asset, huh?" he said, the sarcasm automatic, a shield. "What kind of asset?" Lyra's bioluminescent patterns shifted again, flowing with a complex, rapid pulse that Kale was beginning to associate with intense emotion, perhaps anticipation or calculation. The resonant frequency around him adjusted subtly, less like a physical pressure and more like a field of focused attention. It felt like every atom of his being was under scrutiny, measured, evaluated. "You are human," she stated, stating the obvious with a weight that made it sound profound. "You navigate spaces built by your kind. You understand their technology, their habits. The ones who seek us, they are human. Your knowledge of them, their approach patterns, their weaknesses. This is of value." Her light flowed, a sinuous, mesmerizing dance. "More, your presence shields us. They seek Cathar signatures. Your human signature, layered over ours, provides camouflage, a disruption in their tracking algorithms." Kale frowned inside his helmet. His presence as camouflage. It sounded far-fetched, but he didn't know enough about Cathar resonance or whatever tech the Syndicate used to track them. "So, I'm a walking stealth field." He tried to keep the skepticism out of his voice, but it probably leaked through anyway. "That's a new one." "You resonate at frequencies they expect," Lyra responded, her voice a steady thrum. "We do not. Your signal is a disruption in the noise floor they are actively filtering out. It is temporary, a limited effect, but potentially vital." The light patterns around her solidified slightly, forming sharper lines, perhaps indicating focus or determination. "This derelict station was our refuge, layered with Cathar resonance to mimic natural astral phenomena. Your intrusion. It broke the deep stillness necessary for that camouflage to be fully effective. It created a ripple they may detect." "So you're saying I messed up your hiding spot and now I have to help fix it," Kale summarized. "You have already begun fixing it," Lyra said, and the resonant tone shifted again, taking on that unsettling warmth from before, laced with something that felt distinctly pleased. The light patterns around her pulsed gently like a soft heartbeat. "By remaining here, by allowing the bond marker of your intrusion and acknowledgement of my designation to settle, it is the beginning of a connection, a meshing of our resonant frequencies. It is promising." Kale felt a flush heat his face, even through the suit's cooling system. The way she said meshing, the way the light pulsed and the resonance warmed, it wasn't just about technology. It was about him, about them. The sudden shift in intensity from demanding commander to something softer, more inviting, was whiplash-inducing. He swallowed, trying to get a grip. "Promising for what?" "For survival," she said, and the glow around her flared brighter for a moment, quick as a breath. "For the Cathar, and perhaps for you." She moved closer, the water swirling around her non-existent feet. He reached out a hand instinctively, stopping just short of touching the flowing light. The resonant frequency intensified, and he felt it not just in his bones, but like a pressure against his palm, an invisible barrier that was also an invitation. His fingers tingled. The air inside his helmet suddenly felt thick, charged. "We must leave this section. The water will rise. The disturbance is temporary, but we should not linger here. Come." She didn't wait for his answer, simply turned, her glowing form gliding effortlessly through the water, and moved towards a darker opening in the bulkhead that Kale hadn't noticed before. "Wait," Kale called out, but she was already disappearing into the gloom. He hesitated for only a second. Leaving his rig was risky. Following a glowing, commanding alien who thought he was bonded to her because he got splashed was probably insane. But staying here meant drowning in a derelict station, and something about Lyra, her intensity, her vulnerability glimpsed beneath the authority, the strange pull of her resonance, drew him forward despite himself. He pushed off the bulkhead, letting the water carry him towards the opening she had indicated. His ruined scanner was useless, but he didn't need it. He just had to follow the light. As he squeezed through the narrow opening, he felt the resonant frequency shift again, surrounding him, pulling him along. It felt like being caught in a gentle current, guided by an unseen force. He was following the glow, deeper into the forgotten parts of Rig 7, with an alien commander who claimed he was now responsible for her. This was his life now, apparently, wet and complicated. They moved through a labyrinth of flooded corridors and zero-G conduits, Lyra's glow the only guide. Kale quickly realized that minimal alien physical description in his profile was an understatement. He couldn't really see her at all, not in the way he understood bodies. She was a flow of light, a core of resonant energy. He could perceive structure, a primary mass, radiating points, limbs that moved with fluid grace. But it was like trying to describe water. It had form, but it was ephemeral, constantly shifting. Her communication wasn't just the resonant voice. The light patterns pulsed and flowed with what felt like direct emotional information, a language of pure feeling that bypassed his conscious mind and resonated in his gut. Sometimes he felt a pulse of warmth from her light that spoke of comfort or reassurance. Other times, a sharp, cold flare that conveyed alarm or warning. It was exhausting and exhilarating all at once. "Where are we going?" Kale asked, his voice echoing slightly in the narrow passage. They were in a section that seemed intact, though dark and cold. He could feel the slight hum of dormant systems, the ghost of past life. "To a place of greater stillness," Lyra resonated, her light pulsing with steady purpose. "A deep core module. It is shielded, layered, safer." She paused, her glowing form turning towards him slightly. The resonant frequency shifted, becoming intensely focused on him. "Your stress is high. It is disruptive to the stillness. Attempt to dampen it." Kale huffed. "Dampen my stress? I'm following a glowing alien through a death trap after she said I'm bonded to her because of a plumbing incident. My stress level is pretty appropriate, thanks." "It is counterproductive," she stated, the resonance firm. "My species perceives emotional states through resonant frequencies. Your stress is a cacophony. It makes it difficult to maintain the necessary calm." "So I'm a walking stress beacon," Kale muttered. "Great. Another way he was inconvenient." Lyra's glow pulsed, a pattern that felt like reluctant agreement tinged with something else. Patience, annoyance. "Essentially, yes, you must learn control. The connection between us will amplify this." "The connection?" Kale felt that flush return. "You keep talking about a connection. What exactly does that mean for you?" Her light patterns shifted again, complex, rapid, difficult to interpret. The resonant frequency deepened, becoming incredibly intimate. "It means you are no longer external. You are felt, perceived at a fundamental level. Your intrusion was a shock, a forced opening. Now the edges are softening. We are bleeding into each other's stillness." The warmth in her resonance returned, stronger this time. He felt a sense of being seen, not just physically but deep inside, a feeling that was both terrifying and strangely comforting. "Bleeding into each other's stillness," Kale repeated, testing the phrase. It sounded beautiful and unnerving. "So, is this bond permanent, or is it just until we get out of here?" Lyra paused. Her light flowed, a slow, swirling pattern. The resonant frequency was gentle, thoughtful. "Cathar bonds are not temporary things, Kale. They are formed through significant acts of intrusion or defense, or through shared resonance and vulnerability. Once formed, they exist. They can be nurtured or neglected, strengthened or weakened, but the connection is there. You have initiated the process." The light pulsed, a wave of soft, warm energy washing over him. and I have acknowledged it. Accepted it. Kale stopped walking. He just stood there in the dark corridor, watching her glow, feeling the weight of her words settle upon him. He'd been alone for a long time, drifting from rig to rig, scavenging a living, keeping his head down, keeping people out. His past was something he kept locked away, a dark, quiet place inside him. And now this alien, this being of light and resonance, was telling him he was bonded to her, seen by her, connected in a fundamental way he couldn't even comprehend. And it wasn't just her. It was her kin, the remnants of her species hidden somewhere in this dead station. He hadn't just stumbled upon a salvage score. He'd stumbled upon a secret, a sanctuary, and a profound, unexpected connection. "Okay," he said, his voice barely a whisper. "Okay, so I'm bonded, I'm responsible. What do we do now?" He looked at her, at the intricate, beautiful dance of light that was Lyra, and felt a strange sense of resignation settle over him, mixed with that persistent, confusing pull of curiosity. He'd been adrift for so long. Maybe this was an anchor, even if it was an anchor made of light and impossible demands. Lyra's light pulsed with a quick, bright flare, a visual equivalent of a sharp intake of breath, or perhaps surprise mixed with pleasure. The resonant frequency around Kale solidified, becoming less a current and more a firm, steady presence, like a hand on his arm guiding. "Now," she resonated, her voice dropping to a low, intimate thrum, "we reach the deep core module, and you meet my kin, and you begin to understand the weight of your responsibility." She turned and resumed moving, her glow leading the way. Kale followed, the silence of the station broken only by his own breathing and the constant, humming resonance of the Cathar commander who now claimed him. They reached a sealed bulkhead, ancient and thick. Lyra's glow concentrated, flowing into intricate patterns on the metal surface near a control panel. The patterns pulsed and shifted, and Kale heard a low, complex harmonic tone resonate from her, directed at the panel. With a groan of protesting metal, the heavy door began to retract, revealing a large, dimly lit chamber beyond. The air inside felt different, cleaner, warmer, carrying a faint, unfamiliar scent. And there were other glows within, softer than Lyra's, clustered together in various parts of the room. "My kin," Lyra resonated, her voice filled with a deep tenderness that resonated through Kale. "They are weakened, hiding your presence. It has caused anxiety, but my resonance informs them you are not a threat, not hostile." Her glow softened, blending slightly with the ambient light of the chamber. "Enter, Kale, step fully into the stillness." Kale hesitated at the threshold. This was it, meeting her people, committing to whatever this bond meant. He took a deep breath, the stale, recycled air suddenly tasting sharper. He stepped through the doorway. The door groaned closed behind him, sealing them inside. The space was large, filled with salvaged equipment and what looked like alien organic growths clinging to the walls, bioluminescent, of course, casting a soft, ethereal light. The other glows shifted, coalescing into forms that, like Lyra, were difficult to define fully. They were smaller, less intense than her, their light patterns flowing with what Kale perceived as a mixture of curiosity and apprehension. He felt a ripple of resonant frequencies wash over him from them, a chorus of questions and hesitant welcome. It was overwhelming. Lyra moved to his side, her glow pulsing gently against his own faint heat signature. The resonant frequency she projected shifted, becoming a steady, reassuring anchor against the chorus of alien sensations. "They are fragile," she murmured, her voice low and close. "Exiled, hunted, this is our last refuge." She gestured with a wave of light towards the various clusters of glows. "There are 23 of us remaining, survivors of the Syndicate attack." Kale's gut tightened. The Syndicate, the corporation he'd been trying to avoid for years, the reason he kept moving, scavenging on the fringe. They hunted the Cathar, and he had led them here, or at least broken the shield that hid them. The weight of responsibility suddenly felt crushing. "The Syndicate," he said, the name a bitter taste in his mouth. "They're the ones who—" "They desire our resonance," Lyra finished, her voice hardening, the warmth replaced by cold resolve. Her light flared with sharp, angry lines. "For weapons, for control. They glassed our home world when we refused, scattered the survivors, hunted us across the void." She turned fully towards him, her glow intense, focused. "You are here now, Kale. You have seen us. You are tied to our fate." The resonance around him deepened, became possessive. "You are responsible for the disruption, for the potential danger you have attracted, and now for our safety." Kale looked at the other glows, the last remnants of a hunted species, huddled in the dark, relying on the power and will of their commander. He looked at Lyra, at the fierce, demanding, beautiful light that she was. He hadn't signed up for any of this. He just wanted to find enough scrap to disappear. But looking at her, feeling the strange pull of her resonance, seeing the vulnerability beneath the command, he knew he couldn't walk away. Not anymore. He was in too deep. Wet and now, undeniably responsible. "Okay," Kale said again, the word firm this time. He lifted his hands, a gesture of surrender and acceptance. "Okay, Lyra, tell me what you need me to do." The resonance around them shifted, a palpable wave of relief and something that felt like triumphant satisfaction washing over him from Lyra and the other Cathar. He had chosen, and in choosing, he had bound himself to a fate far larger and more dangerous than he could have imagined. Lyra's light shifted, flowing in intricate patterns that felt like a complex communication being conveyed not just to him but to the other Cathar. He felt the resonant frequencies around him settle, the chorus of alien voices dimming, replaced by a watchful silence. Lyra turned back to him, her glow intense. "First," she resonated, her voice low and direct, "you will remove your suit. You are in my sanctuary now, Kale. You must shed your external shell." Kale blinked. "My suit, here. Are you sure? It's not exactly sterile." He looked around the cavernous space, at the salvaged tech and organic growths. It wasn't exactly the cleanest environment he'd ever been in. "The air is clean," Lyra stated, her light steady. "Purified by our systems. It is safer than the environment outside, and to remain shielded within your shell disrupts the integration of your resonance. It is a barrier." She paused, and her glow shifted, softening, the resonant frequency taking on that deep, intimate warmth again. "To take responsibility means to share, to be open. Remove the barrier, Kale. Let me perceive you fully." The way she said "perceive you fully," the intensity of her glow and resonance, sent a shiver down Kale's spine that had nothing to do with the temperature. It wasn't just about air quality or resonant frequencies. It was about vulnerability. He hadn't been this physically exposed in front of another being in years, not truly. Every interaction he had on the fringes was transactional, shielded. But Lyra was asking him to drop the shield, to trust her, to trust the other Cathar. He hesitated for only a moment. He had chosen, he had committed, and something about the raw, demanding honesty of her presence, the way she laid bare her own need and vulnerability beneath the command, compelled him. He reached up, flipped the locking mechanism on his helmet, and twisted. The seal broke with a hiss of equalizing pressure. He lifted the helmet off, taking his first breath of the Cathar air. It smelled like clean rain and something else, something floral and faintly metallic. The moment the helmet was off, the change was immediate and profound. The resonant frequencies around him intensified, no longer filtered by his suit. He could feel the subtle vibrations in the air, the deep hum emanating from Lyra and the other Cathar. It wasn't just sound, it was a physical sensation, like being bathed in soft energy. And the light, without the tinted visor, the bioluminescent glows were breathtakingly vivid. Lyra's light flared brighter, the patterns flowing faster, more complex, responding directly to his presence. He felt a pulse of pure, unadulterated curiosity wash over him, emanating from her and the others. He saw his reflection in a nearby polished metal surface, sweaty hair plastered to his forehead, grime smudged on his cheeks. Not exactly his most charming look. "You are different," Lyra resonated, her voice closer now, softer. He looked at her glowing form, which seemed to hover slightly above the ground. He could see more detail now, subtle shifts in the intensity and hue of her light that he hadn't perceived through the visor. "The stress cacophony is lessened, but your core resonance is wounded, tight." Kale ran a hand through his damp hair. "Yeah, well, life out here doesn't exactly encourage relaxation." He started unbuckling the heavy suit seals on his shoulders. The other glows in the chamber seemed to lean forward, their light pulses accelerating with what he now recognized as intense interest. "Remove the rest," Lyra commanded gently, the resonant frequency holding no demand, only invitation. "Let your resonance expand. Let the stillness touch you." He peeled off the heavy suit piece by piece, until he stood there in just his thin undersuit. The air felt cool against his skin. He was acutely aware of the alien eyes, or whatever they used for sight, on him, of the pervasive, humming resonance that filled the space, of the brilliant, flowing light that was Lyra standing before him. He felt utterly vulnerable, exposed in a way that went beyond just being physically naked. Lyra's glow intensified dramatically. The resonant frequency around him pulsed, became warmer, softer, surrounding him like an embrace. He felt a sensation on his skin, not a touch, but like a light current of warm water flowing over him. It was intensely pleasurable, soothing the tension in his muscles, easing the knot in his gut. He closed his eyes for a moment, just letting the alien stillness, the alien resonance, wash over him. It was the first time he'd felt truly calm in years. And he opened his eyes. Lyra was closer still. Her glow was mesmerizing, flowing in patterns that seemed to echo the intricate designs he'd seen on her form. The resonance was focused entirely on him now, a deep, vibrant hum that vibrated through his chest. "Better," she resonated, her voice a low murmur. "Your resonance is less constrained, more receptive." Her light pulsed, a complex, rapid display that spoke of a potent mix of curiosity, assessment, and something deeply, intensely possessive. "This is the beginning, Kale, of shared stillness, of understanding. You are no longer just a scavenger. You are part of the Cathar now, my charge, my responsibility." He felt a jolt at her words, a strange reversal of the responsibility she'd placed on him earlier. Now she was claiming him as her responsibility. The air thrummed with her energy, with the silent, watchful presence of her kin. He was standing in the heart of a dying alien species' last refuge, damp, vulnerable, and claimed by their glowing commander. It was terrifying. And for the first time in a long time, he didn't feel completely alone. The hours that followed blurred into a strange, dreamlike state. Lyra didn't immediately give him tasks related to syndicate defense. Instead, she guided him, patiently, through the basic principles of Cathar resonance and stillness. He learned that the light patterns weren't just visual. They were tied to complex energetic fields that the Cathar used to communicate, perceive, and interact with their environment. His earlier perception of emotional patterns wasn't entirely wrong. Their light and resonance were direct expressions of their internal state. He sat on a makeshift cushion salvaged from a ship's bridge, watching the other Cathar glows in the chamber. They maintained a careful distance, but their light patterns and resonant hums conveyed a constant awareness of his presence. Lyra remained close to him, her glow a steady, reassuring presence. She taught him to recognize different resonant frequencies, how to distinguish between the hum of their life support, the soft thrum of Cathar conversation, which was more felt than heard, and the faint, distant thrum of external energy signatures, the ones they were trying to hide from. "Your mind is loud, Kale," Lyra resonated gently, her voice soft. She was floating near him, her light swirling in hypnotic patterns. "It echoes with thoughts, with memories. It disrupts the stillness." "Sorry," he mumbled. "Hard to turn it off. It's usually what keeps me alive." "Survival is not always found in loudness," she replied, her light pulsing with ancient wisdom. "Sometimes it is found in silence, in allowing the stillness to enter." She extended a part of her glowing form towards him, a tendril of light reaching out tentatively. "Allow me to assist." He tensed instinctively, but then remembered her words. "Remove the barrier, be open." He nodded slightly. The tendril of light drifted closer, and instead of touching him, it simply hovered inches from his forehead. He felt the resonant frequency intensify, gentle but powerful. It was like a wave of calm energy flowing into his mind, smoothing the rough edges of his thoughts, dampening the internal noise. For the first time he could remember, his mind was quiet, truly quiet. It was both unnerving and profoundly peaceful. He looked at Lyra, at the intricate pulsing patterns of her glow, feeling the deep connection that was forming between them through this shared resonant stillness. He still didn't understand her species, their technology, or the full scope of the danger they were in. But he was starting to understand her. The fierce protector, the last commander, carrying the weight of her people's survival and somehow finding space within that burden for curiosity, for connection for him. That was incredible, he whispered when the sensation faded. His mind felt clear, sharp, yet relaxed. It is the beginning of shared resonance, she said, her light flowing with satisfaction. A deepening of the bond. Your resonance is becoming familiar to us. Less alien. She paused, her glow shifting, and the intimate warmth returned, stronger than before. This sharing, this openness, it is essential, Kale, for trust, for true connection. He felt the flush return. The way she spoke, the way her light intensified, the way the resonance felt like a physical touch, it was impossible to misinterpret the underlying current. This bond wasn't just about survival and protection. It was about something far more personal, far more profound. What about the syndicate? Kale asked, needing to ground himself in the external threat. If they detected the disturbance, when will they arrive? Lyra's light patterns sharpened instantly. The resonant frequency shifted, becoming a low, urgent thrum. They are cautious, she stated, her voice now clipped. They probe, they listen, but they are persistent. Your ship's signature, if they detected it near the disturbance point. They will investigate. It is a matter of when, not if. Her glow intensified, radiating a powerful resolve. We must prepare. You must help us lay new shields, create diversions. Your knowledge of human systems, of their scavenging tactics, will be invaluable. The shift was abrupt, from profound intimacy to tactical urgency. Kale nodded, adrenaline starting to pump through him. This was familiar territory, planning, action. He could do that. Okay, he said, pushing himself up. Tell me what you need. Access points, system schematics. I know these derelicts like the back of my hand. Lyra's light pulsed with approval. Good. We will begin with reinforcing the core module's shield resonance. It is powered by residual energy in the station's core, but it is unstable. Your human power conduits, perhaps they can be integrated to provide a more stable source. Her glow flowed towards a complex arrangement of salvaged Cathar tech and station infrastructure. Come, Kale. Your responsibility begins now. Not just to my kin, but to the bond that has formed between us. Working with Lyra was unlike anything Kale had ever experienced. She didn't use tools in the conventional sense. Her light and resonance interacted directly with the salvaged tech, manipulating energy fields, adjusting frequencies. Kale's role was to navigate the human infrastructure of the station, identifying power conduits, bypassing failed systems, and making physical connections that her resonance couldn't achieve alone. He worked in the dim, glowing light of the core module, Lyra always nearby, her presence a constant, humming awareness. She communicated through a blend of resonant frequencies, light patterns, and that soft, melodic voice. It was a constant dialogue, not just of words, but of shared sensation, shared purpose. When he needed a specific access panel located, her light would guide him. When he struggled with a particularly stubborn junction, he'd feel a pulse of reassuring energy from her, a gentle nudge of resonant frequency that seemed to ease the connection. The more they worked together, the deeper the strange bond between them seemed to grow. The shared stillness wasn't just a concept. It was a state they inhabited together, a bubble of quiet focus in the chaotic environment. His internal noise was dampened, not suppressed, but harmonized with her presence. He felt calmer, more focused than he had in years. And the early physical tension, the sensory curiosity, had escalated into something more profound. One moment, Kale was wrestling with a fused conduit, sweat dripping from his forehead. Lyra's glowing form was close by, her light bathing the area in soft illumination. "This is stubborn," he muttered, his wrench slipping. Lyra's glow shifted, and he felt a wave of pure, focused intent wash over him. Her resonant frequency intensified, directed at the conduit. He heard a faint ping and the metal groaned. He tried the wrench again, and this time it turned smoothly. Your understanding of physical resistance is inefficient, Lyra resonated, her voice soft. Sometimes the solution is not force but resonance. Her glow flowed closer until she was directly behind him, her form a warm, radiant presence against his back. The resonant frequency pulsed gently, seeming to wrap around him. He felt a wave of deep calm, of pure connection, wash over him. It was intensely sensual, a profound intimacy that bypassed physical touch entirely, yet felt more penetrating than any embrace. He leaned back slightly, letting the warmth and resonance flow through him. "Is this part of the work?" he asked, his voice a little unsteady. "This is part of the bond," she corrected, her resonant frequency vibrating deep in his chest. "Shared effort, shared resonance. In the Cathar way, this is intimacy." Her light pulsed, warm and inviting. "You are receptive, Kale, your core resonance, it is opening." He closed his eyes for a moment, just feeling her presence, the intoxicating blend of light, resonance, and emotional communication. He was opening, to her, to this impossible situation, to the potential for something he hadn't even allowed himself to dream of. As the days passed, Kale and Lyra fell into a rhythm. They worked on the shields, on the station systems, patching, jury-rigging, combining human and Cathar tech. In the quiet hours, Lyra taught him more about her species, about their history, their culture of stillness and resonance, their devastating loss. She revealed the depth of her burden, the responsibility she carried for the remaining Cathar, huddled like fragile stars in the heart of the derelict. He, in turn, shared glimpses of his own past, the reasons he lived on the fringe, the wounds he carried. Not in long narratives, but in quiet admissions between tasks, in the way his resonant frequency responded to hers, in the moments when the stillness they shared became a space for mutual vulnerability. The banter remained, a familiar rhythm of their interaction, but it was layered now with a deeper understanding, a growing trust. One evening, after a long day of working on a power conduit, they were back in the main chamber. The other Cathar glows were soft, their resonance quiet as they rested. Kale sat near Lyra, the soft hum of her presence a comfort. "Why me, Lyra?" he asked quietly. "Why did you claim me? Why trust me with all this?" Her light flowed slowly, thoughtful. "You intruded," she resonated, "uninvited, yet your resonance was not hostile, it was chaotic, yes, disruptive, but not predatory. And when tested, you did not flee, you remained, you engaged." Her light patterns shifted, pulsing with a soft, intense warmth. "Your core resonance beneath the loudness. It is lonely, Kale, and it resonates with mine, with the deep loneliness of the last Cathar." His breath hitched. Lonely. Yes, he was, profoundly, and she saw it, felt it. The barrier he'd maintained for so long, the one she had asked him to remove, was truly gone between them. Lyra drifted closer, her glow washing over him. "You reacted to my designation," she continued, her voice a low thrum. "You spoke my name, though you did not know it. This is a powerful bond marker for the Cathar, an involuntary recognition of deep connection." She paused, and the resonant frequency deepened, filled with a raw, unguarded intensity that stole his breath. "And when I asked you to take responsibility, you accepted. Not with fear, but with a strange acceptance. Like you were waiting for it." Was he waiting for responsibility, for connection, for something more than just survival? He looked at the glowing being in front of him, at the beauty and power and vulnerability of her, and realized maybe he was. "And the water?" Kale asked, a small, wry smile touching his lips. "Getting me wet, was that also faded?" Lyra's light pulsed, a rapid, intricate dance that felt like amusement mixed with something far more tender. The resonant frequency around him warmed, grew richer, surrounding him like a physical embrace. "Perhaps," she resonated, her voice a soft murmur. Or perhaps it was simply the universe providing the necessary catalyst, a shock to force the stillness to break, a literal immersion into a new reality. Her glow intensified, drawing him in. "You were immersed, Kale, now. We explore the depths." The air thrummed with anticipation. The stillness between them wasn't just calm, it was charged. He reached out a hand, his fingers trembling slightly, and this time the light didn't hold him back. His hand passed through the luminous field and made contact with something beneath, smooth, cool, resilient. It wasn't skin as he knew it, but it was solid, real. Lyra's glow pulsed, shifting patterns across the surface his hand now touched, a silent language of sensation and connection. The resonant frequency deepened, enveloping them both, pulling him into a state of shared energy, shared vulnerability, shared need. The silence in the chamber was absolute, save for the thrumming of their joined resonance and the soft, rapid beating of Cale's own heart. The syndicate arrived sooner than they expected. Not a full assault, but a probing force, 3 heavy cruisers dropping out of warp on the edge of the system, sending out long-range scans. The core module's shield held, but it was a tense time. Cale worked with Lyra, monitoring the scans, identifying the subtle patterns of syndicate communication he knew, advising on deflection techniques. He was an asset now, undeniably. But the shared stillness was disrupted. The fear and anxiety of the other Cathar bled into the resonant field, a discordant hum beneath Lyra's steady command. Cale felt it too, the cold knot of fear tightening in his gut. He was back in the familiar territory of being hunted, of hiding. During a tense quiet period, while monitoring the external scans, Cale and Lyra were alone in a small control alcove within the core module. The other Cathar were in the main chamber, their glows dim and huddled. Lyra's light was sharp, focused on the data streams, her resonant frequency radiating tension and resolve. "They are persistent," she stated, her voice tight. "They know something is here. They are trying to triangulate the source of the shielded resonance." "They're good," Cale admitted, watching the complex data patterns on a salvaged human monitor he'd rigged up. "Syndicate tracking tech is top tier. They want your resonance badly." Lyra turned from the monitor, her glow pulsing with raw emotion. "They took everything," she resonated, her voice heavy with grief. "Our world, our people, our history for this." Her light flared with pain. "We are the last if they find us." Seeing her vulnerability so starkly displayed, the immense weight she carried tore at Cale. He reached out instinctively, touching her glowing form again. This time his hand rested against the smooth, cool surface for longer. The physical contact, even through the light, felt intensely grounding, a bridge between their vastly different forms. Lyra's glow shifted, flowing towards his touch. The resonant frequency around them deepened, becoming a shared space of sorrow and comfort. "Cale," she murmured, and her light patterns shifted, revealing a brief, fleeting glimpse of something within the glow, something that might have been an eye or a collection of sensory organs focused entirely on him. "You have seen our deepest pain, our greatest fear." "We'll fight them," Cale said, his voice fierce. "We'll use this station, this derelict graveyard. I know its blind spots, its weaknesses. We can make it a trap." Lyra's light flowed, a complex pattern of gratitude and strength. The resonant frequency pulsed, surrounding his hand, pulling him closer. "Yes," she resonated, her voice firm, filled with renewed determination. "We will fight, together." Her glow intensified, and the resonant field around his hand, where he touched her, deepened into a powerful, intoxicating current. It wasn't just comfort anymore. It was potent desire, raw, unbridled, amplified by the shared vulnerability and the looming threat. The physical contact escalated, guided by her light, by the insistent pull of her resonance. He was no longer touching just a surface. He was being drawn into the heart of her being, into the core of her light and energy. The air thrummed with intensity, with the unspoken need that had built between them, layer by layer, since the moment he got wet. The fight was brutal and swift. The syndicate ships, confident in their technology, sent boarding parties to the rig, attempting to pinpoint the source of the Cathar resonance. Cale used his knowledge of the station's layout, its collapsing structures, its vented sections, to lure them into traps. Lyra and the Cathar used their resonant abilities to manipulate the station's ancient systems, sealing off corridors, creating sonic disruptions, turning the rig itself into a weapon. Cale was in the thick of it, moving through dark, dangerous passages. his comms linked to Lyra's resonant presence, her voice guiding him, her light a distant, urgent pulse in his mind. The shared stillness was replaced by shared adrenaline, shared fear, shared purpose. He felt Lyra's presence constantly, a fierce, protective awareness surrounding him, pulsing with warning or encouragement. At one point, trapped in a collapsing access tunnel with two syndicate heavies closing in, Kale was pinned by falling debris. His suit groaned under the pressure. He couldn't move. Fear spiked through him. "Lyra!" he shouted into the comms. Instantly, Lyra's resonant frequency slammed into the tunnel, powerful and focused. He felt the very metal around him vibrate violently. The syndicate heavies cried out, their comms filled with static. The debris pinning Kale shifted, pushed aside by an unseen force. "Kale," Lyra's voice was sharp with urgency. Her light flared somewhere nearby, a beacon in the chaos. "You are vulnerable, extract." He scrambled free, pushing himself through the narrow gap, adrenaline coursing through him. He burst into a larger chamber just as Lyra's glowing form surged around the corner, a wave of light and power. The syndicate heavies were staggering, their suits malfunctioning under the resonant attack. Lyra's glow flared, enveloping them in a blinding, disorienting light. There were sounds of struggle, cries, and then silence. Lyra turned to him, her glow intense, her resonant frequency vibrating with a dangerous energy. She drifted close, inspecting his suit, her light scanning him. "Are you injured?" she resonated, her voice tight with concern. "Just bruised," Kale replied, leaning against the bulkhead, catching his breath. "That was intense. You cleared that tunnel." "You are my responsibility," she stated, her light patterns flowing with fierce determination. "I protect what is mine." Her glow softened slightly, and the resonant frequency shifted, regaining some of its warmth, though still underscored by the adrenaline of the fight. "You were reckless, Kale. You exposed yourself." "Just doing what I had to do," he said, meeting her intense, luminous gaze. "Like you." Lyra's glow pulsed, and she reached out, her luminous form flowing around him, not just touching but encompassing him. The resonant frequency deepened, surrounding him, pulling him into the heart of her light. It was an embrace of pure energy, raw emotion, and protective instinct. He felt completely enveloped, safe within her power. "We are nearly finished," she resonated, her voice a low hum against his ear, though she had no ears. "They are retreating. Their attack failed." He leaned into her, letting the light and resonance wash over him. The battle was almost over, but the real victory, the real change, had happened long before the fighting started, in a flooded corridor, with a splash and a demand for responsibility. He had found his anchor. The last syndicate cruiser warped away, leaving behind only the dead silence of Rig 7 and the crippled boarding shuttles adrift in the void. The battle was won. Inside the core module, the remaining Cathar glows pulsed with relief, their resonant hums rising in a chorus of quiet celebration. Kale stood beside Lyra, watching the distant stars through a salvaged viewport. He was battered and bruised, his undersuit torn in places, but alive. And not alone. Lyra turned to him, her glow soft and warm, her resonant frequency filling the space between them with profound peace and deep affection. The intensity of her presence was breathtaking. The layers of command and burden had peeled away, revealing something raw and beautiful beneath. "We are safe," she resonated, her voice a low, intimate murmur. "For now. They will not return quickly. They underestimate the Cathar, and they underestimated you." Her light flowed, swirling in intricate patterns of gratitude and love. "You fulfilled your responsibility, Kale. You protected us." "We protected each other," Kale corrected, reaching out to touch her glowing form. His hand met the smooth surface, and the resonant frequency pulsed, flowing into him, a wave of pure, emotional energy. He felt her relief, her exhaustion, and something deeper, something that mirrored the growing intensity in his own chest. Lyra's glow intensified, pulling him closer. Her resonant frequency deepened, became overwhelmingly intimate, filling his senses. "The bond is forged," she resonated, her voice thick with emotion he could feel as much as hear. Through stillness, through shared vulnerability, through battle, it is complete. Her luminous form flowed around him, enveloping him completely in her light, her energy, her being. He felt the cool, smooth surface against his skin as she held him close, a physical anchor in a sea of light and resonance. The transition from battle-forged alliance to profound intimacy was seamless, a natural culmination of the bond that had been building between them. Enveloped in Lyra's light and resonance, Cale felt the last of his walls crumble. There was no awkwardness, only raw, undeniable need and connection. Her luminous form pressed against his, the cool, smooth surface a stark contrast to his warm skin, yet the resonant frequency that flowed between them was pure heat, pure energy. It bypassed physical form, speaking directly to his core, to the lonely place she had perceived within him. He felt a pulse from her, a wave of pure desire that resonated deep in his gut, pulling him further into her light. His hands moved instinctively, finding purchase on the resilient surface of her form, pulling her closer still. The boundary between them blurred, his human warmth meeting her alien coolness, their energies mingling in a torrent of sensation. Her resonant frequency vibrated against his body, a complex symphony of pleasure and emotional intensity that stole his breath. It was like being simultaneously grounded and dissolved, held and consumed. Lyra's light pulsed and swirled, responding to his touch, to his own rising resonance. She made soft sounds, resonant hums and clicks that vibrated through him, communicating pleasure and need in a language older than words. He responded with touch, with sound, with the clumsy language of human desire, pouring years of suppressed need and loneliness into the connection. There was no defining boundary between them, no specific points of contact in the human sense, just a merging of forms, a blending of light and shadow, resonance and flesh. It was intimate in a way he had never conceived, a communion of being rather than just bodies. Her light flowed over him into him, and he felt as if he were bathed in pure sensation, seen and accepted at his most fundamental level. The initial shock of getting wet felt a universe away, a clumsy catalyst for this profound, life-altering immersion. Afterward they lay together in the heart of the core module, Lyra's light soft and warm, a gentle hum filling the space. Cale was wrapped in her presence, his hand resting on her smooth form. The other Cathar glows were still, their resonance quiet, giving them privacy in the vast chamber. Responsibility, Cale murmured, the word feeling different now. Lyra's light pulsed gently. Yes, Cale, you accepted it, and in doing so you found your place. Her resonant frequency was soft, filled with contentment. You are of the Cathar now, my bonded. You're bonded, he repeated, testing the phrase. It felt right. More right than anything had felt in a long time. He looked at her, at the glowing, beautiful being beside him, and felt a swell of emotion he couldn't name, a mix of love, awe, gratitude, and a fierce protectiveness that mirrored her own. What happens now? He asked, looking up at the reinforced ceiling of their refuge. Now we rebuild, Lyra resonated, her voice regaining a touch of its command though softened by intimacy. We find a true home. The Syndicate knows we are here or we're here. This place is no longer safe for long. Her glow shifted, patterns of determination forming within the soft light. We use what we have gained, your knowledge of their weaknesses, the stability you brought to our shields, the strength of our bond. Their bond, it was more than just a concept now. It was a physical reality woven into the very fabric of their beings, expressed through light, resonance, touch, and shared vulnerability. He had come to Rig 7 a lonely scavenger looking for a quick score and a way off the fringe. He had found a hunted species, a fierce, radiant commander, and an impossible connection forged in crisis and sealed in intimacy. He was no longer drifting. He had an anchor. He had a purpose. He had Lyra. He closed his eyes, feeling the soft pulse of her light against his skin, the deep, comforting hum of her resonance filling his chest. He had been wet, cold, and confused. Now he was safe, warm, and irrevocably bound. This was his new beginning, unexpected and profound, illuminated by the light of the alien who had claimed him as her own.